Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly video game hangout. I'm your host, Mike Mahardy. We have a lot of Star Wars stuff to talk about today. We're so glad you're here. As usual, we have the Twitch chat open, YouTube chat, GameSpot chat. If you're joining us, please feel free to participate. We always love comments, questions, and concerns. I'm here with Pete Brown.
I love concerns.
Yeah? What are your concerns this week?
There's a lot of reviews to get out. There's a lot of games coming out. Mm-hmm. Some remakes, remasters, I guess. Mm-hmm. Some new stuff.
Oh, like Disney Afternoon came out, Full Throttle remastered.
Yep. Voodoo Vince, which we're not doing a review of, but that's
favorite game ever.
Yeah.
What's it about? I don't know that game.
I really don't know. A boy named Vince.
Dawn of War 3 is next week, right?
Dawn of War 3 is next week. The review will be up tomorrow.
Outlast 2 is soonish.
Yes, review will be out next week.
Things are ramping up a little bit before like Prey hits.
Mario Kart 8 is coming out.
Mario Kart 8. Callie, you're
Callie
writing
Flaggy over there.
Good
Callie
segue.
Flaggy.
That's me. I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart 8.
Big Mario
Deluxe.
Kart fan.
I'm a big Mario Kart fan, and I'm ready to crush the opposition.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about.
Perfect.
When's that review going up?
That is going up tomorrow.
Okay.
Please help me.
Rob Handlery,
I can't help you on that.
our resident Street Fighter expert. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, Mike.
Star Wars. We're bringing you on for some Star Wars talk today.
I like Star Wars.
Yeah. You. How many times did you watch the new trailer for Last Jedi? not
Last
Battlefront?
Jedi.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Not as much as I watched the first Force Awakens trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that movie is looking good. Last Jedi.
I'm pretty pumped.
Pretty pumped.
Yeah.
As usual, we have a giveaway, which are already modeled right here. We have some Pixel Pals, Chun-Li and Ryu. If you want to get after these, Shiva will be tweeting from our GameSpot Twitter account. If you follow us, then retweet that tweet, and later on in the week, we'll pick a random winner in North America. But also, if you don't follow us, and if you're in the Twitch chat, Shiva usually puts that in there. She's Khaleesi Plays. And yeah, so hopefully you win that later in the week. We can get those off the table now, I guess, Rob, if you don't mind. Cool, got some news items I want to get through as usual before we get to the main segments. Sad day in the world of classic Nintendo games. Nintendo, kind of without explanation as far as I have seen, discontinued the NES Classic. At first, it was just North America and Japan, but then they confirmed after people reached out to them that it's Europe and just worldwide in general. It's been plagued by supply issues since launch, which, a lot of people, I don't know if this, a lot of people kind of say that Nintendo tries to create that illusion of demand.
That might be giving them too much credit.
But do you have any idea why this might have been a problem with this? Was it coinciding with the Switch launch or what?
People have a lot of different theories. Well, yeah, one of them being that this was a really good way to drum up interest in Nintendo right before Switch came out. I think Zelda kind of did that on its own.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that maybe they're working on the Super Nintendo Mini and they're trying to focus their efforts on manufacturing that. But yeah, I don't know. It's really not clear. It's one of those decisions where it makes you scratch your head and say, "Oh, Nintendo," I guess.
Yeah, someone actually tweeted at me for the show today asking what games we want to see on Super Nintendo. I actually tabled that because I'm sure if we do get the announcement, then we'll talk more about that then. But yeah, that was Josh Lopez. Thank you for the question, but like I said, we'll table it for another episode because it's probably going to be more relevant coming weeks, months, or whenever they decide
We just need Super Metroid and Chrono Trigger. That's it.
Isn't the subscription for Nintendo like one classic game a month or something like that too?
On the Switch?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So we're in the middle of like an online trial period where everyone gets to use online stuff for free. I guess Mario Kart 8 is going to be the first game to take advantage of online play.
Yes.
Or maybe not the first, but maybe like the first major one. But within this period, and then once we start paying for a subscription, you're supposed to get one game a month. It's been a month and a half now. No free game. So who knows what's happening. I don't think we're going to see Virtual Console. I think we're going to see these games released just on their own as little classic titles.
In other news, Bandai Namco, they were kind of teasing a new game with the tagline, "Prepare to Dine."
Trolls.
Which I'm sure caught us all. This is getting kind of hot.
Art, I love it.
It has since been announced as Code Vein by the same developer as the God Eater series, Shift, developer team Shift. And it will be a dungeon crawler-like experience with RPG elements. I mean, the first thing that a lot of people hear when they hear that is Dark Souls, but obviously you can tell this is very stylistic. I'm not sure whether it's going to be... I mean, they haven't said too many other details aside from the general genre, but I don't know. It looks promising, looks stylish.
I love her.
What's her name?
Waifu.
That's her name is Waifu?
No, it looks cool.
And also, kind of leading into our first segment, Call of Duty, the new DLC, the new Zombies map, is out as of today.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you haven't played it yet, we are doing a stream later. Scott Butterworth will be, and Joey, I believe. Joey Yee will be playing with some of the Zombies developers.
Yeah, say what you will about the game itself, but Zombies here is really fun. Just coming back to this every time, I actually really enjoy it. They put a lot of time and just content into these maps. This one's kind of 80s disco funk themed, which a little bit of Kill Bill, Kung Fu in there.
Crazy
Like
88.
Big Trouble in
it's-
Little China.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a huge disco funk fan, and just getting into there's a disco dance floor, and I believe it's the Tramps, the song "Burn Baby Burn." I believe that's the Tramps.
Yeah, this-
I love that song so much. So just hearing that, I'm sure you turn the power on, and they're gonna dance on the dance floor right there. I think.
Hell yeah.
Heck yeah.
Well, if Human Beings comes on, Nobody But Me, the song that plays while she's breakdance sword fighting the Crazy 88. And it's also the song that Leo DiCaprio puts that dude from Rhode Island, he puts him through the fridge in The Departed. It's a popular song to use.
Prolific song.
Yeah.
No, I really like Zombies in Spaceland. I'm excited to play this.
Yeah. So this is out as of now. You can go play this on Xbox One, PS4. And also in the world of DLC, Nier Automata released something fittingly weird for this game. You can fight the Square Enix CEO Yosuke Matsuda and the Platinum CEO Kenichi Sato. You can fight them as bosses in this DLC. So this prompted the question, what are some of the weirdest DLC packs we've ever played? Because there have been some odd ones.
Are we going to show some of the... Okay, here we go.
Oh
Are we going
my
to get into the
God.
actual fight of it? Because I watched it this morning.
Look at that.
Is this Square or
That's
Platinum?
the Square Enix CEO.
So that's
That is
Matsuda.
so
I
ridiculous.
love it. I love it so
Oh,
much.
he just told me.
So like they fight with a mix of just like hand-to-hand martial arts, but they also can emit like clouds of drones that are just their heads, which you can see right here.
Oh my, that's what we need. All right. But have you guys played much of this game? Because I know that it's said time and time again that despite the slew of awesome releases this year, this game is fantastic. I was just telling Rob before the show,
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot more of it, like between Persona 5 bouts. This game is really, really good. And all the weird shit in it just feels so right for this game. Yoko Taro, he's done other stuff like that. He did Drakengard?
Drakengard.
Yeah. It's like his style, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll get the time to play this DLC yet, but damn, level 85 is... I mean, it sounds high, but after playing it... So here's Platinum, CEO and President.
I like how he's just motionless.
Kenichi
Just
Sato.
descend from the sky.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
you
but
think
at the same
that's air
time.
you're breathing?
Yeah. If we stick with this, the fight looks like super just chaotic, and the player ultimately dies in this clip.
Stop trying to hit me and hit me. Yeah, you end up... Some guy was watching The Matrix on a flight the other day, and it got stuck in my head.
You think that's a game you're playing?
And then he watched Matrix Reloaded, and then I fell asleep.
I stopped using my spare time playing this to try to play more Persona, and I'm feeling like, not that that's a mistake, but maybe I want to shelf Persona for now and go back to this game.
I'm kind of having that same debate. I just there's a lot of games the beginning of this year that are going to take up a lot of time to play. Like
Right.
I'm still playing Zelda, and I'm trying to finish that so I can move on, basically. But I'm not sure if I want to move on to Persona or to this. And I kind of want to move on to this, looking at this battle, because I want to fight a CEO's head.
Is this
Multiple.
in game? Like, this
seems
is
like
so
it's
ridiculous.
like an arena, like dungeon. type.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
that's
judging by
how
how
I
the rest
want
of the game is structured, it might just be something you travel to in the open world. But yeah, like you said, it just seems pretty basic Coliseum kind of thing. But yeah, this is one of those games that, I mean, Goobshu Riot in the Twitch chat was just saying it needs to be in the Game of the Year discussion. I know it's only, what is it, April? I know it's only April, but this is definitely one of those games that I don't want to let get overshadowed by all the other very fantastic games coming out this year.
I
But
don't think there's any question it's one of the best out of the third of the year that's passed.
yeah, and it's great for Platinum because they've kind of had a rough between. We talk about this all the time. Scalebound being canceled on Xbox One, and also the last release I think was TMNT, Turtles in Manhattan,
Oh,
Mutants in
God.
Manhattan. I always forget the name, but I didn't play it. Anyway, yeah. So we wanted to talk about other weird DLCs we've played throughout the years because there's quite the plethora of them. The first one I want to talk about, and it's quite popular, is Undead Nightmare for Red Dead Redemption. Essentially, did you guys play this?
Nope.
No. Okay, yeah. Well, it essentially just kind of reskinned Red Dead Redemption and put zombies on it back in the middle of the zombies' heyday after like Left 4 Dead and Dead Rising were huge. I liked it. It was it was self-referential. Is this even it? I think this is the Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
God, I feel like that's my spirit animal right there.
I feel like that's you.
Yeah.
That's your Patronus.
Yeah, this
Is
six
that
shooter.
you on the right?
Yeah. I'm John Marston with a 6-shooter.
I'm just a silent hairy man sitting against a tree.
Naked.
Go ahead, kill me.
So anyway, zombies.
Like one of the more, like some of the more, I don't know, some of the bigger DLCs, Undead Nightmare actually kind of went back to reskin much of Red Dead Redemption and place Undead in this world and kind of told this story. I forget what the actual justification was for it, but it
What is a man?
You think I don't exist? How are you so sure you exist? I'm here.
Maybe we're all Bigfoot on the inside.
What is he saying? Such a monologue.
So, yeah, Undead Nightmare.
Oh, those
Undead
eyes.
Nightmare is probably a good one to get into. Another one is Enter the Dominatrix. That clip showed nothing of Undead Nightmare, but just imagine
Bigfoot DLC.
B-roll.
imagine zombies in Red Dead Redemption, and that's Undead Nightmare. Here we go. John Luke he's back at it. Enter the Dominatrix was originally teased in April of 2012 as an April Fool's joke DLC for Saints Row 3. It was never finished. And then it ended up being released as DLC for Saints Row 4. And I didn't really realize how weird it was until I finally played it like 2 years ago. I think it must have been
Yeah, get it.
very, very sex tinged. But there are these cutscenes. It's very self-referential. They talk about, it's kind of a parody into what it's like to make a game or how games change along the way, because there are these live action cutscenes of developers from Volition acting out the scenes that they didn't have time to finish. But they like stuff like this. Yeah, they get into like how it started as an April Fool's joke and then people wanted it, so it fit into Saints Row, so they just, yeah.
I kind of want to play this.
It's very good. It's kind of a cool, like I said, it's all satirical about maybe not DLC, but just how games are made, and it's really funny. It breaks the fourth wall every which way, and it also calls itself out when it is not in like canon or when it breaks congruity with the main game, because it's like a parallel storyline. It's really good.
I like super want to go back to Saints Row 4 now, just
That
so
game's
I can
fun
play
as
that.
it is. That's like in the vein of Just Cause, kind of that dumb open world fun. In Saints Row 4, you're actually like a superhero. That whole series evolved so weird. The first one was kind of more grounded, gritty, like almost like, chasing after the GTA vibe.
Yeah.
But then 4, they just developed their own weird, crazy identity. And Enter the Dominatrix seems to be
Those,
the
like,
apex
dildo
of that.
guns?
Yes. Volition now is working on Agents of Mayhem, which has a lot of the same flavor from.
That's my Patronus.
The boy's getting married.
This guy.
I was gonna say, where's the other raptor?
Oh my god.
Oh no, that's me.
Yeah. Okay. That was Enter the Dominatrix. More recently, I want to talk about Resident Evil 7's DLC. They've been releasing a lot of DLC like right after it came out, which I think served it well. It had a long tail as far as beating those huge releases. But here's Birthday Party.
That's weird.
So when you're talking
super
to
weird.
Jack Baker, and this is the more comical one. Jean-Luc, I know, played through the whole thing, but based on the other DLC that I played for this game, I didn't get the chance to play Birthday Party, but it did look super weird. I think Jean-Luc and Joey streamed it at some point. And even the enemies, yes, he's got like confetti. It's like Grunt Birthday Party from Halo.
I was
almost.
gonna say it is
Yeah.
like a birthday party.
But it's got all the molded enemies have birthday hats on.
So if you're scared of this game, this is probably the way to play it, right?
I guess so, but I don't know. This scares me more.
I was gonna say this is pretty creepy.
I don't like clowns.
Oh, this totally breaks the like horror vibes.
No, this creeps me out more. I'm more upset.
Oh, it does not.
Yeah.
I am upset.
Who paid you to say that?
Liar. Stop
Capcom,
lying.
there's someone behind a camera here from Capcom.
No.
But yeah, outside of the got full helmets on. Outside of the birthday party DLC,
Horrific.
you should definitely, if you are a fan of Resident Evil 7, play the DLC they've released. There's a lot of cool stuff. They do the escape rooms with Lucas, and they kind of, you can go back through Madhouse difficulty. Play in VR. This game is fantastic. Also, Game of the Year contender in my mind, even though it's only April. But
Just ate a pepper grinder.
I want to talk about
Okay, I'm not scared anymore. I'm good.
XCOM 2. Very minor one compared to these, but Anarchy's Children. This is just another excuse for me to talk about XCOM 2 because I
I was gonna say.
fucking love this game. I was just playing this yesterday. Rob, you kind of saw me. You might have, but it takes the idea of what if humans didn't become this just rebellion when the aliens took over, and if they became this like punk. The Purge is the dumbest movie that's coming to mind right now about the aesthetic with these mohawks. I don't know, just this post-apocalyptic, I mean, for lack of a better term,
I can't see.
anarchy. And you can have these the lower face mask part, you can have these samurai like
Oh my god.
muzzles. It's pretty badass, but it also
hate
gets
that.
weird in the sense that some of the outfits are like these gimp costumes, kind of like these tight leather thing. That one's sick. I'd wear that in real life. There's a lot of mods for this game, so DLC is kind of hard to recommend in XCOM 2 because there's so many mods that are free that you can just play, and people have implemented stuff like this. But Anarchy's Children was cool because it kind of lent a lot more color to your team rather than these just militaristic looking outfits throughout the whole thing. Yes, so moving on to another one that wasn't exactly DLC, but it spawned from another game was Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Far Cry Blood Dragon. Yeah. After Far Cry 3, this weird project developed, became this 80s, I don't even know how you would describe it. 80s, like, outrun, kind of cyberpunky, not even cyberpunk. It just took, like, 80s action movies and made it into a Far Cry, like a bite-sized.
Like Tron kind of vibe.
Fever Dream.
Tron. Yes, with outrun music and shit. It was really fun. And we're still capitalizing on 80s nostalgia, I feel like, with a lot of games releases, but this seemed to kick that off, maybe. You end up getting a power glove later on. You punch this reactor to destroy the base. It's really fun. But it's really cool that it developed like that. I think it's like takes 12 hours as opposed to Far Cry 3, which took more of a, 50-hour approach.
I just like that it completely changes the themes. Like it's just a complete switch.
Yeah.
And I love 80s. I love 80s shit, so I was like all about this.
Yeah, it was kind of, looking back, it's cool that Ubisoft greenlit this.
I know. That was pretty sick.
But yeah, play this if you haven't. It's standalone on Xbox 360, PS3. It's worth playing. Cool. And then I just also wanted to touch more on Call of Duty Zombies. We were talking about it before the show today. As good as most Call of Duty games are, or at least okay, Zombies is always really interesting. It was just Treyarch, but then with Infinite Warfare's Infinity Ward's first time doing it as opposed to some other like wave-based mode. But Rob and I were talking, I forget how many maps there are for Zombies. There's like 22 or something. 23 from
the whole
release?
franchise?
Yeah.
Tons. Yeah, and there's like a continuity with like with Black Ops Zombies, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, because there's
really
those
deep.
original 4 characters. There's a Japanese character, a German character, and 2 Americans. What that started in
Russian.
Russian.
and a Russian. It's not it's Reznov's later. But it was kind of the people that were the factions that were included in like the first Call of Duty World at War, and then they ended up they becoming the first one was I think just Nocturne and Toten, Night of the Undead. Mm-hmm. You seem to know German more than I do based on our conversation this morning.
And it was duh.
9.
Sehr gut.
Yeah, and then like Der Rise came along.
That was my favorite. That was where I was telling you guys when my buddy and I would play till like 3 a.m. It's like, dude, we have class tomorrow. We'd pause it at wave 28 and then go to bed and try to pick up where we left off, and we were just so naive. Like, okay, you ready? Okay, on pause, dead. Yeah, because you develop such a momentum and a rhythm that you can't just sleep on it and pick it back up. The game is just intense.
I would stay up with my brother and play. Like,
yeah,
they're fun.
Yeah,
and I think so. What was the previous one? Black Ops 3, right?
Black Ops 3 had like the sort of like noir.
This started with the noir one
Yeah.
with Jeff Goldblum was in it. They started getting super weird with celebrity appearances. You hear, is it Danny Trejo or Johnny? Danny Trejo. Sarah Michelle Gellar. But they actually started bringing celebrities into it, but it didn't at any point feel like a gimmick because they were just. I mean, I guess it could, but they're all quality. But here's the
kind of
Shinonuma Zombie Swamp from the first World at War where it started. But this was always a Treyarch thing, and then with Infinite Warfare, Infinity Ward took a swing at it. I think
And they really put their own spin on it because it's like 80s theme. Zombies in Spaceland is super fun, and they're really cheeky. I really like Zombies in Spaceland.
Yeah, and for those of you watching this live, like I said, there'll be a live stream later at 2 p.m. Pacific. Scott Butterworth and Joey Yee from GameSpot will be hosting it and playing with developers from Infinity Ward that worked on Zombies for Infinite Warfare. Anyway, let us know if we didn't mention any DLCs that you wanted to hear talked about. Let us know in the Twitch chat, YouTube chat. Hit us up on Twitter. Comment on this if you're watching on YouTube after the fact. Cool. All right, let's get into Star Wars, 'cause I'm sure that's why most people are here. Battlefront II, finally, after that leaked teaser trailer, we know much more about it. Callie Plagge, you were down at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando last week.
I was.
And you talked to some of the writers of the story mode, which we saw the trailer for. The last trailer focused more on the campaign, which the first game was lacking, and I think a lot of people are excited to see that. So I did want to start with story mode and what they're doing with it, what we kind of discerned from the trailer last week. We already talked about that, but between, I guess, all four of us, we have, especially you two, we have a lot of Star Wars knowledge on the set today. So I wanted to talk about what are your kind of impressions of story mode so far? What's going on with it?
Okay, so basically, I'm really excited for it because it's kind of switching perspectives. It's about an Imperial commander named Iden Versio, and so you're kind of they're taking great measures to not portray it as like this black and white good versus evil thing necessarily. It's they're not portraying the Empire's bad guys. You really are a protagonist in this game, from what I understand, and I think that's really interesting. And you get to kind of see what the Empire views as heroism with regard to like order and stability is very much an Imperial thing. And it takes place right after the events of Return of the Jedi. So it's picking up in the 30 years between that movie and Force Awakens. So it's kind of exploring this timeline that we know not a lot about.
Not mainstream, right?
Yeah, it's not mainstream for sure. I mean, like they talked about, the writers talked about being inspired by Aftermath and the Shattered Empire comics, which I thought was really cool. So there's stuff in the existing canon that you can kind of base this off of, but they're really trying to explore something that Star Wars hasn't really done yet. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it sounds like, it's like an elite squad. It's called the Inferno Squadron is what she's part of. And they're pilots, but also good boots on the ground sort of soldiers. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, Rob, you spent most of like yesterday afternoon kind of looking into the lore of this. Can you enlighten us as to what might be going on plot-wise?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a bunch of times, and it's as Callie said, like it's filling in a nice gap that has been untold for the most part. But yeah, I started hitting up the Wikipedia.
Thought that was an accident when he said it earlier.
No, that's legit.
Guy that calls Kakariko Village Karaoke Village.
That's a joke. Okay. And I got lost in that stuff. And I have some notes on what I think we'll be seeing. So Jean-Luc, if you want to roll that B-roll, you might want to like jump around a little bit. But essentially you play this character Iden, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to see this trailer. I probably should have trimmed this a little bit. But regardless, so there, you have already shots of Force Awakens. You just keep moving along.
Star Killer Base.
Or just play this, Jean-Luc. I think I timed it. So that's that droid again. It's a seeker droid that you can imagine is like a companion.
Yeah, and they said in the presentation that I went to that the droid is going to kind of be a big part of gameplay too. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, you actually see a little bit of it in action. It's a ID9 like seeker droid, and it can walk, it can talk, it can impersonate other droids. So I think there's just an arsenal of abilities it can have that you'll probably be seeing.
I wonder if it'll kind of play the part of like I don't know, detective vision that's in so many games now. Like what was it? What was that? The thing that Aloy used in Horizon?
Focus.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, sorry.
So this ship, we haven't really seen this before, but I looked it up and it's I believe it's a Raider class Corvette, which essentially is tasked with like taking down rebel hit and run ships. So it's like an anti cruiser for the Rebel Alliance. So it's like quick. It's got like a single turbo laser, like compared to like a Star Destroyer has like multiple series of turbo lasers. So it's got some weapons on it. So I would definitely imagine you're flying this thing in some space battles in the single player campaign if you keep going. Oh, and top right there, that this was weird pausing it. That's a Mon Calamari cruiser. And this clearly seems to be not a fight or battle scene. So I don't know what the hell that thing's doing there. It's really weird.
Doing here in the fleet.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's like attacking it. Like maybe it's like captured in the beginning because this is again Death Star 2. So there's no conflict right now. So it's kind of interesting.
Maybe no one sees it.
Sure. Super Star Destroyer there. Obviously, you remember from the Return of the Jedi movie. Maybe there's some action there with that thing. And I believe in the description of multiplayer, the space battles will have like takedowns of massive enemy cruisers. So maybe there's some of that going on with space battles in multiplayer or even single player. And again, there's the droid again. You see it actually shocking a rebel trooper. And here's just the wreckage there. So this is, if you keep going, this is where it gets really interesting. So here's post Jedi, right? Everyone's bolting. So what I was looking up, and again, this was in Shattered Empire. Back to that actually shot. No, just keep playing, John Luke. But that's actually Takadana from Force Awakens. But those are actually original trilogy TIE fighters, opposed to First Order TIE fighters, which is really weird that they're going back to that planet. So this is the coolest stuff right here. So that guy, it's like, who is this dude? He is a Sentinel, and in the Shattered Empire comics, after the Emperor died, he realized he needs to basically have if I die, I need to have these commands. So he has these droids. That's like a dressed up Royal Guard droid there that will deliver his final commands. And this is all lore. There's something called the contingency, which is basically when the Emperor says, if I die, destroy the Empire. And he has these guys carry out orders. So he's telling her most likely, like, this is now my next plan. Here he is in the comics. He would do things like he had a prong, so he would pierce your skin and get like a blood sample and see if you're actually like, legit who you were before he like relayed the plans, essentially.
As one does.
Is that what you call them? Prongs?
Prongs? Needles?
No, I was joking.
So he's got the face of the Emperor on him. And one of his first plans, so after Endor, the Battle of Endor, his first plan was the Battle of Naboo. So he had the Emperor, as you know from the prequels, was born on that planet, is a senator from that planet. The Emperor wanted to basically erase all ties of him being a Sith. So he had basically the Empire go to this planet, attack it, use these satellites to create hurricanes on the planet, flood the capital of Naboo, which is Theed, which evidently is a map in this game. They say at the bottom, Theed is something you'll play in multiplayer, and have his staff basically throw and destroy all the Sith like relics that he had. And then with the final stages of his contingency plan was to, at some point, eliminate all officers other than like a few higher ups, and have those officers then flee to the Outer Rim. One of them being, I forgot his first name, but actually I wrote that down. What was his name? I did not. But it's
to start like the First Order?
To start the First Order. And one of them being Hux. His son is the Admiral Hux that you know from The Force Awakens. So that's super neat. Like, yeah, you're gonna see the start of the First Order. Yeah. And whether or not she's a part of it, we'll have to see.
Yeah, and when I talked to them, they worked very closely with Lucasfilm to make sure this is all, it fits into the continuity. They don't like using the term canon, but that's like the easiest way to describe it. But like they've created a new planet, and they're focusing on exploring what happens to the Empire after the Emperor, and so a lot of that from Shattered Empire kind of coincides with what they were saying. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, you're talking to some of the writers, right? Mitch Dyer used to be at IGN, but now he's working here on this game.
Yes. So
and then Walt Williams.
Full disclosure, I used to work with Mitch Dyer at IGN, but he's working on this game now with Motive Studios, and I was getting a lot of Rogue One vibes from just the tone and what they were saying about the game, and it seems like for them Rogue One kind of validated what they were already doing with this story, so I would imagine it's going to be tonally at least a little bit more in that vein than maybe what you're used to with the original trilogy, at least, or even Force Awakens.
Kind of like focus more on one squad, a la Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, or even it's interesting to see like rumors about the next Call of Duty going back to World War II. You have to wonder like maybe people are focusing more. I mean, this says like the Untold Soldier story, but it's interesting to see where it goes, especially because Walt Williams helped write Spec Ops: The Line.
Right. So the other writer, he wrote Spec Ops: The Line. So I'm very interested to see where this story goes and what tactic they take with it.
Yeah, you want it to be fun, especially because it's the first single player campaign since Battlefront II, which had like Galactic Conquest and those story modes, which were kind of they were the campaigns for all four factions, right. But it would still be interesting to see things from the Empire's perspective, especially after it's just shattered. You mentioned Halo Reach as a comparison. Like, things won't end well, but you still kind of enjoy the ride while you're playing it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where it goes, especially after the lore you were telling me about when you were talking to the writers down in Orlando last week. Cool. But let us know what you think. If you noticed anything in the trailer that we didn't, if you have read Aftermath or Shattered Empire, let us know if you have any theories about what we might see in Battlefront 2 and releases November 17th of this year.
Yes, and be sure to check out our Everything We Know So Far. If you have any questions, lays out basically the story and kind of what the details are.
Yeah, and I know Jean-Luc is working on one of his history of pieces. He's doing a history of Battlefront. I think that'll be up maybe this weekend, maybe next week. We're not positive yet, but you should check that out if you haven't played a Battlefront or if you haven't played in a while, you kind of want to get back into it. Cool. Now, just moving on to multiplayer, it seems like the other side of this two-headed dog. You saw it, and it's apparently, in terms of overall meta progression and stuff, it's super different than the first game.
Yeah, so the actual interview I had at Star Wars Celebration was about multiplayer, and the biggest change is going to be the progression system. They're trying to give it more longevity and trying to keep you coming back to multiplayer, and with that, they're giving both troopers and heroes progression, and then that progression unlocks kind of customization. I mean, obviously, Darth Maul's going to be Darth Maul. You're not going to be I am Darth Maul with a gun, but you're going to be able to give them sort of a career. And then they also talked about wanting this quote here. This is Bern Dimer, who I talked to. From DICE, and they wanted heroes to not just be quick pickups. They didn't really specify, but he talked about a resource-based system that, as you can see here, gives them a little bit more presence, more he sort of described it as being weightier, having them kind of occupy more space on the field, and I wasn't exactly sure what that meant, but it seems like it's going to be a little easier or just different. The process of getting heroes is going to be different,
As opposed to just those tokens that just pop up.
Exactly.
Which are random, and I remember when I covered Scarif, I could not find the Jyn Erso icon. I would stalk and wait for an area, and I would see guys doing the same thing. It's you're not participating at that point.
In the first Battlefront Rogue One DLC, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so did you get to see the progression system in action? Was this all just kind of them telling you about it?
No, this was just talking to people from Motive and DICE. We really don't have a lot of footage. The only thing we got from multiplayer from that trailer was just seeing different heroes that are going to appear. Like the trailer says, it's heroes from all eras.
Yeah, just to clarify, people watching this live right now, this is the first Battlefront from EA and DICE. This is we don't have much footage from the second one, so we threw this up to compare it. Kind of, you pick up a token, then depending on the planet, you get the hero. In this case, Luke Skywalker on Hoth.
Yeah.
But as Callie is saying, it's more tied to just completing different actions, maybe in a more Battlefield kind of way, right? You don't have to just get kills to contribute to something. You can actually be a support character, a healer, maybe.
Because Bern Dimer, whose quote was up earlier, he's from DICE. I would imagine maybe there's some sort of connection there with how it works in Battlefront. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Battlefield. It really wasn't clear, and I was like, oh, well, are heroes specific to planets? And they were like, maybe. I was like, okay. The other cool thing is that troopers are specific to the location and era you're on, because they're trying to keep it more, I think you said more authenticity.
The aesthetic of the soldiers are, but not the
Yeah.
loadouts. Those are carry across planets.
Yeah, so it's basically a skin, and that's tied to the progression system. So your career trooper is going to be the same. You're not going to have to restart because now I'm in the Clone Wars era, and now I have to start over.
I think they even mentioned on their site that they'll have separate modes catered to the mix and match of Darth Maul and Kylo Ren, hitting the town. I think they'll have at least those separate
going
modes.
out for some
Just
martinis
going
and some
out.
Cosmos.
Shooting the shit.
Kylo Ren is such a Miranda.
So Darth Maul's a Samantha, maybe?
Nah.
Carrie? He's a Carrie?
I don't know Sex and the City
is
that
2,
well,
right?
but this is Battlefront 2, correct?
Yes.
Count Dooku on Tatooine. It's kind
Look
of
at that little guy.
interesting. Who's that little guy? No, just joking. I'm into the more if Count Dooku was a character on Friends, who would he be?
Oh my God.
He is such a Ross. I've never thought about that until now. Mace Windu would be such a Monica. Oh, is this just Hero Brawl?
Yeah,
Okay. I was wondering. I was like, why are they all there?
Yeah, I'm all they'll definitely do that. It sounds like, but on the flip, I would really hope that they have game mode or playlists that are stripped maybe of these heroes, because that's just
Yeah.
something I personally don't really care for.
Yeah.
I really, I've talked about this every time that we've talked about Battlefront 2 so far. I hope that they borrow from things what they did with Battlefield 1, both of them being something DICE worked on. But like the first Battlefront was very, if you're a Star Wars fan, it was fun for a few hours, at least it was for me. But then after a while, it kind of just lost its substance, and I felt like it was all just spectacle, surface appeal. I hope they're actually, maybe the progression system will help. I know progression systems are nothing new, and I know that's kind of become a staple since like Modern Warfare.
Right.
I still think that could give it the legs that the first one didn't have.
I agree. I mean, I think they recognize that, and I think they're taking steps to rectify that with Battlefront 2. But I mean, I agree with Rob. I would rather have an option to just kind of not have heroes. Although they did mention that one of the things they took care to do was not make heroes feel overpowered. They wanted, if you weren't playing a hero, to be able to take down a hero, like feel like you were on a level playing field. So I'm not exactly sure how that will work. We just really need to see more of it in action, I think. But as far as what they're saying with what's changed, it seems like they've recognized the problems with the first Battlefront.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, Pete, and you said that you were kind of tired of seeing like Han Solo corkscrewing across the battlefield and just
That move specifically I love. No.
Though it was the Emperor doing barrel rolls.
Right.
That's what it was. And then Han Solo was just, I don't know, what was he doing?
Sitting
Just
against a
being
tree, questioning the meaning of life.
dapper. You're still on that Bigfoot,
Bigfoot.
thing, aren't
Yeah,
you?
you're still thinking
You
about
not moved
Bigfoot.
on since then?
So I haven't said anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing about the progression system too, now that I'm thinking about it, is with the last Battlefront, was that everything was locked behind a currency, and that's including, I mean, here it is. You had HUT contracts. You had to basically I think it was just too much maintenance and work opposed to just like, the subconscious idea of like the more I play, I'm just gonna unlock more weapons, opposed to like, all right, well I have 2,000 credits, whatever it is. Where am I gonna put that? I sure as hell I'm not gonna put it into any cosmetics. Like that's one thing. You know what I mean? Like I never got or played as much as I would have to the point where it was like, all right, you know what? I've unlocked everything. Now it's time to maybe focus on like how I look as a stormtrooper.
Sorry, I don't know who captured this, but that was pretty dumb to call that in while you're in the middle of a hallway getting shot. He's going to be dead by the time he gets back.
Well, maybe he knew he was going to die and he bounced out.
Maybe it was you capturing it.
No.
Yeah.
Excuse me, when you get in the vehicle, you disappear, so I just saved my ass.
Oh,
That's what I was saying.
Jean-Luc
Yeah.
is- Jean-Luc is chiming in saying,
Defense.
I forgot, in this game, you're immediately safe. It's a get out of jail free card. You warp to a TIE fighter. That makes sense. I don't know why I'm calling out the logic in Star Wars, but
It's all good.
it's always been physically sound, Star Wars. It's not like hard sci-fi, but it's still
fantasy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah.
And here's space battles. And what's nice is that Criterion, who made the VR X-wing mission, they from the ground up reworked all the flight controls, and they felt so much better compared to the vanilla game.
Yeah. I do have some questions about Battlefront. Some of it from the story that I didn't get to earlier, but Grant Wilson on Twitter was asking, do we think Battlefront 2 will keep the bad guys, or will they switch sides? Do you think they're going to stick to that, like, you are the Empire, the whole thing, or is it going to end up just becoming this moral gray ground?
It really seems like they're trying to give you a different perspective and not just frame the Empire as objectively bad. It's more like see where they're coming from sort of thing. I think it's not like gray Jedi stuff.
On like a personnel level, probably more than anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Mark Thompson from Motive Studios. And yeah, so Iden, they're, like he says here, they're trying to just kind of put you in somebody else's shoes, and it's not clear if they're going to, I imagine that maybe there'll be like a come to Jesus moment where you're like, oh man, the Emperor was real bad. I don't know. But it seems like they're taking a nuanced approach with it.
Was it, Rob, was it you, not to keep making comparisons like Band of Brothers, but there's that episode of Band of Brothers where they're in Austria and kind of, Bavaria, and they're just saying kind of, looking at what it meant to be like a boots on the ground soldier for the Nazis as opposed to this like Third Reich officer. And then that's also when like Germany had collapsed at that point and the Allied forces were across the Rhine and everything. It kind of reminds me of something like that, like the downfall. I don't know. Because I mean like stormtroopers and whatnot always being kind of like a stand-in for Nazis.
Well, yeah, I mean there's a difference between like an 18-year-old kid on the German side is the same as an 18-year-old kid on the American side, so it's sort of a similar vein, but Iden is a commander, so she has more power than
Spec
the
Ops
average
stuff, too.
Yeah, she's more than the average stormtrooper, and so
Yeah.
maybe that'll be the difference. Maybe they'll examine that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like World War II. Like, it's a series of just propaganda and brainwashing. Like, you're led to believe the Emperor is awesome.
Well, Force Awakens, remember when Finn is showing signs of kind of... You just got a poster of him on your ceiling when you're sleeping?
That's something they actually said, is that the kind of character they're trying to build here, the Inferno Squad, which is the Iden Squad, is kind of the people you would put on the propaganda poster to inspire, Empire kids to want to fight for the Emperor. Like, that's the kind of character they're going for. So
Goopshoot Rye in the chat, Twitch chat. I know what I'm talking about. It's Band of Brothers. Go watch it if you haven't seen it.
You just proved his point, but yeah.
Yeah, you've seen Band of Brothers. You know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then go watch it. All right, cool.
Or I was gonna say, go check out the subreddit. I think it's a subreddit called The Empire Did Nothing Wrong. It's like there are people who just
Yikes.
scan and scour all of the movies and just look for like the whole thing about the Death Star. I think this is now not considered canon, but that the Emperor made the Death Star because every 10,000 years. This just very much the plot of Mass Effect. No, I swear you have
The Reapers come along?
Yeah, they come and they wipe out the whole universe or the galaxy.
Or even
he
Halo.
was prepping for that.
The
Yeah.
Halos
The
were created
Halos.
to destroy the
It's
Flood's
really
food.
funny. Well, yeah, there
Yeah.
was a whole book or something like that on it. I found that really interesting.
I really love the dark side. I was always a Darth Vader girl. I had a crush on Anakin Skywalker. I will admit that.
He's dreamy.
I had the biggest crush.
When he's
When he's middle-aged.
what has happened? When he's on Mustafar and he's
oh my god. No,
hot.
yeah.
I have the
so
high ground, Callie.
The Empire sure, they did some things wrong,
Now
but
I'm
maybe
nauseous.
not all the things.
All right. Anyway, if you're in the Twitch chat, YouTube chat, if you're watching this afterwards on YouTube, let us know what you think of Battlefront 2, whether you plan on playing multiplayer, whether you're excited for the campaign, whether you're excited to see things from the Empire's perspective. Let us know. Cool, but like I had mentioned, I think this is good week as any. There have been rumors out about the new Call of Duty is going to be, kind of revealed sometime soonish in the coming weeks from Sledgehammer Games. It's their turn in that 3-studio rotation for Call of Duty games. But also, like we just said, Battlefront 2 is focusing more boots on the ground from the Empire's perspective. It's also one of the writers from Spec Ops, The Line. Very, very good game. Kind of took a look at what it means to kind of be doing screwed up stuff because you're being told to in war. But Walt Williams is also writing Battlefront 2 with a few other people at EA Motive. But we figured it'd be a good time, because of all this, to talk about our favorite war games, our favorite games about war. Not necessarily like Spec Ops that critique it, but sometimes they're just fun. Like, I don't know, Red Alert 2 is one of my favorite games. And that's a really dumb look at war. It's like you have Yuri's, like in the expansion, Yuri's Revenge, you have this faction that kind of has like brain control shit. And then you have Tanya. You can have an army of Tanyas crawling across with C4s blowing up base. But we already mentioned it. I want to talk about Spec Ops The Line quick because we talked about it so much. Have you guys all played it?
No, but I watched Chris Waters' wonderful video review this morning. I miss that guy.
Yeah.
He knows how to write a beautiful script.
Yeah. It's a really cool game. To pimp something that Jake Decker and I are doing, our next episode of Reboot, the show we've been working on, is about war in games and kind of games that portray it well, games that critique what it means to be playing a soldier in a game and whether it should be fun and, I mean, how they make war games fun in general. But also, we talked a lot about Spec Ops, and this is an important game in that I know the statute of limitations is probably lifted, but I still am hesitant to...
It's a generation old.
I know, but I'm still hesitant to spoil this if you're watching now and you haven't played it, just because the ending is super integral to the game and why it's important. I mean, if most people
I vote
probably
not
played
spoiling it,
you
personally.
It's cool. It makes you actually... It's kind of the BioShock of war games almost. It examines what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're doing what you're told and how you factor into like screwed up things that are really happening despite the fact that it's a game. And it's just a fun game, but then, they kind of call you out for thinking that, but it's a really good game. And like I said, same writer as Battlefront 2's campaign, one of them, Walt Williams. This is from developer Jaeger. But Callie, you said you played this.
I mean, you've said most of the things I
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to
tough.
say.
I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, I like an examination of why we find this sort of thing fun. I mean, I grew up playing shooters, which is a weird sentence, and it's important to reflect. I think it's important to reflect on why you enjoy that sort of thing, and it was important for me at least. So.
Sorry, he was just doing a really
Yeah.
unrealistic thing. Oh, there's the dogs right there.
Yeah, I was like,
That is super weird. Did you see that? We were talking about Mitch Dyer writing Battlefront, and then in this video review in the lobby, it was Chris Waters and Mitch Dyer.
Really?
whoa.
That's weird.
What's up, Mitch?
Yes, but anyway, we are. Yeah, like I said, if you get the chance on Sunday, go check out Reboot at 3 p.m. We talk more about Spec Ops, but it's also one last thing. It's kind of based around Apocalypse Now or Heart of Darkness. Kind of looking at going down this like long river to Colonel Kurtz or whatever, this AWOL general. Anyway, Callie, you want to talk about Modern Warfare?
I really want to talk about Modern Warfare.
A game that we all hate. No, I'm just joking. I love this game.
Yeah, I mean, I played Modern Warfare Remastered, obviously, and I think it's aged really well. My favorite mission is, and I don't care about spoiling this because it's not the end, is when you have to save the helicopter pilot. The helicopter's crashed, and
I think it's called Charlie Don't Surf. Is that the same one?
Is Charlie Don't Surf the one before? I think it is.
This is Charlie Don't Surf right
Yeah.
here. So yeah, you might be right.
So it's the one right before. You have to save her, and there's a time limit, and no matter how quickly you do it, you get nuked anyway. You die anyway. And when I first played this game, I hadn't really played a game where like I couldn't succeed. And I just sat there and thought about it for a really long time, I remember. And when I played it again, having come off of, Black Ops 3 or even Infinite Warfare, where you're like super powered and you can do anything and you're moving really quickly. You go to Modern Warfare and you're clambering over shit, and like you are getting bombed out, and you have to like really, you have to really try, especially if you're playing on hardened or veteran. And I just liked that slowdown. I liked going back to something that felt more human than being able to wall run and jetpack out of whatever situation. Like you can't jetpack out of this,
Aww.
To segue, actually, you just remind me of this mission, but where I was going to go into was, again, not by any means realistic, but like Halo Reach. Had that same ending. And as a huge Halo fan playing that game, it was the first time where you play as Master Chief or even Arbiter, these really overpowered super soldiers. In that game, you had a squad. You had people that weren't just generic scripted, grunts from aliens who just had the same like 2-3 lines. These are people who were like sacrificing their lives like for you, and one by one, like the last few hours of that game were like, as again someone who's playing that series was like, this is uncomfortable in a good way, and it ended with you basically dying, like it turned into like a horde mode or zombies even, right? Like the ending, right? You're gonna die, and
here it is right here. Your Noble 7, and your visor starts to crack more and more.
Yeah.
Because by this point, Catherine Halsey, the scientist that's kind of in charge of the Spartan program, and you're transporting Cortana to the dropship to give to, you find out later, Master Chief. This takes place right before they do the slip space jump, the random one, which you're not supposed to do because you have no idea where in the universe or the galaxy you'll end up, but they end up at Halo, and then Pillar of Autumn mission starts from Halo Combat Evolved. And there's that Easter egg in the cutscene, if you hold the stick to the right, you can look over and see Master Chief in his cryo.
Really?
Yeah, it's really cool. This game is fantastic. Again, we keep mentioning it, but it's almost like that Saving Private Ryan. It's a small squad with personalities. Yeah. So when someone dies, you feel it all the more. It's like the Vin Diesel scene, which sucks in Saving Private Ryan, or forget what's the one-on-one scene with the knife, with the stabbing. That part's always tough to watch. But this game gets pretty emotional. It's really impressive that the whole time you're going to lose in the end, but it's still fun throughout.
Yeah, and some people on your squad like didn't necessarily die very heroic, right? They would just be like a sniper shot from a jackal. Like, geez, like you just it left you with very abrupt like ways of dying, and it was uncomfortable. Yeah.
Going back to Modern Warfare really quickly, there's an achievement for, it's like super early on in the game, but if you're like in a stairwell, and I forget what level it is, but you can get an achievement for like saving this kid, because like an enemy will just come and like stab him. And I did it and I didn't even know there was an achievement for it. Like I had forgotten. And I don't know what about it. Like everybody in your squad has a name, and I don't know what about it like stuck with me. Like the fact that I saved him on accident, and I was like, oh wow, he could have easily died, and he's not a real person, but like that happens in real life all the time. I don't know what it was. It just really messed me up.
Yeah, someone's mentioning also the No Russian mission from Modern Warfare 2.
I saw that.
Yeah, that was Bushin Ryu Cat on Twitch was saying, are you guys going to talk about Modern Warfare 2's level No Russian? That was surreal. If you don't know, that's the one where you don't have to start opening up fire, but you're in the airport and you're like undercover with these Russians. You start just shooting civilians in the airport, and you don't actually have to, but they kind of heavily not encourage you, but yeah, you can see it right here, but they kind of heavily say, and then it's kind of like scary. This was also 2008, 2009?
Yeah.
Like what I forget how.
It's, oh my God, it's so upsetting.
That's actually one thing about Modern Warfare. Again, we talk a lot about that on Reboot this weekend. It was weird. My brother did 3 tours in Iraq with the Marines and then 2 in Afghanistan, and as opposed to the World War II games that Call of Duty had always done, Modern Warfare came along, and then it's fictional, kind of combines Cold War fears of nukes and Russia being the enemy with terrorism and, like insurgents from the Middle East that you always saw in CNN. But it was weird to be playing a game portraying a conflict that was currently happening. And that was kind of weird. I mean, that was the first time I felt uncomfortable. But then, this came along. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
That is
I don't think they pulled that off at all.
No, it's...
I don't know.
So uncomfortable. I mean, if you were around at that time, it was so controversial that like you can opt not to play it.
Yeah.
Like couldn't sell it in like Germany or something. Some European country was like, nah, like fuck off with that. Yeah, it is a very weird shift. I mean, you start out playing like I personally started out on like Doom and Quake, and then I played like World War II shooters, and then you get into this sort of thing, which is like you said, like a real conflict that is happening, and you see, the insurgents kill a president, and it's like it's much more real because it's not as distant as something like World War II. World War II was always like glorified.
It was also like kind of more black and white, I guess, good versus evil.
Well, yeah, it's very easy to be like, we all know the Nazis are evil. It's like fine, but there's much more. You feel bad. Like I mean, I love that. I love Modern Warfare. I love that game. Yeah. And it also has those dumb military like Stay Frosty Marines things that I'm like, oh, okay. I'm playing remastered and being like, oh yeah, I forgot when we all thought that was cool.
Yeah, if you're playing Mass Effect Andromeda, there's the classic line where on the ice planet, stay extra frosty.
Yeah.
All right. To crawl out of this depressing hole and also out of that awful bit of writing, Pete, you wanted to mention something a little more that you could
Anytime I get an
have fun with.
excuse, Mike. Yes. Final Fantasy Tactics is a game about war. Obviously, it's sort of like a medieval fantasy sort of thing, so it's not war the way that we've been talking about wars, right? But what it deals with is sort of like, who controls the history books after a conflict, right? Usually the people who win. But, when you do that, you sort of lose touch of all of the actual events that happened. So this game actually shows you the events as they occurred versus as how history remembers them in this world. And the things that sort of lead to a certain person winning and then rewriting the history books has a lot to do with like class warfare, has a lot to do with how religion sort of inspires people to do things, to cause wars, and something like that. Now this game is a little bit hard to follow because especially the naming of a lot of characters and places and events is very rapid and it's very odd. You have characters named Gafgarion, Delita, like things that just sound really, really strange. So you may have to play this game a few times to really get everything, but it's a really curious examination of the manipulation of people, events, and information around war.
You said, I mean, like in strategy games like this, kind of top-down isometric, or I mean, like I wanted to talk about XCOM 2 really briefly because that's the game I always try to talk about when I get the chance. But
you already talked about it once.
Yeah, I know, but I'm gonna again. I always get kind of attached to characters in games like this when I know like all their abilities and their. I don't know, like Fire Emblem comes to mind too, but I know how they play into my squad, my team overall. Do you get the sense from that? Do you actually get attachments to these characters, or are they kind of just these veneers?
Well, you do. I mean, there are some characters that can never die permanently, but most of the characters in your party will, which includes your starting cast and some characters that you pick up throughout the story that are like, like special characters, right? Like one-off classes and stuff like that. But you can even dismiss troops and stuff like that if you need to make room in your party. And these characters, they all have these like lines that they give where they feel like, what, am I not good enough? Like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to let you down. Like, are you really going to cast me aside? And so maybe even if they're not dying, even if you're just shuffling them around, you can feel bad for them.
Your guts are hanging out of your stomach. Clearly, you're not good enough. Get out of here. Go die. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that.
But yeah, this is if you consider the sort of like aspects of
Sorry.
the sort of aspects of war that drive something like Game of Thrones, because there is kind of like an overarching war behind all of that, apart from the wall and all that shit. But this game is really good in that sort of vein, and really just kind of keeps you guessing from beginning to end in terms of like who's really in control and who is the one who has the most at stake at war.
You've been telling me to play this for a long time. At least
Yeah, I
I've
don't
been
know.
telling a lot of people I should.
Yeah,
What's the best way to play this?
I feel like you ask me that every
DS?
time. It's not on DS.
Damn.
There's like 2 sequels that came out, Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2. A2 is on Advance, but on DS, but don't play those. Play this one, either the PlayStation Classics version on your Vita, PSP, PS3, or you can also do the War of the Lions, which is sort of like an updated version that is on iOS, PSP, and PS Vita.
Cool. I also, Rob, you already talked about Halo Reach a little bit when we were talking about Battlefront, but yeah, there are a couple other standouts that actually kind of take a cool look at war. This War of Mine is more focused on the civilians and how they're affected. It's like an Eastern European conflict, but you have to just survive in these. Fuck the war right there. You can see on that rock. But you are you are civilians surviving in this Eastern European conflict, and you essentially, every time you play, it's kind of a procedural in terms of how long it'll take, but you have to just survive until a ceasefire is called, which is completely out of your control. And you're just kind of you see a Fallout Shelter perspective on this. A lot darker than Fallout Shelter, though. I think Something the Children is the DLC for it, and it introduces kids into it, and you have to kind of take care of them as well. Ooh. But yeah, you have to decide who your enemies are. Yeah, who I don't know. It's who your enemies are and who your teammates are, and how this all factors into how the civilians get affected. Because it's like kind of talking about how this is their war, the way they perceived it, even though they weren't fighting in the overall conflict. It's also just maybe not fun, but it's also really rewarding. Managing these teams, like kind of you were talking about Final Fantasy Tactics, or I guess XCOM 2, you get attached to these characters throughout each playthrough, and you're like, okay, this person's good at lockpicking or cooking. This person is useful for that. But then you start seeing them on a more emotional level, and it's pretty rewarding. I suggest trying that out. It was the PlayStation Plus free game last month, or like 3 months ago, actually. Yeah, it's worth playing if you haven't. Mm-hmm. Any others that you want to mention that I didn't?
Yes, that reminded me. I want to talk about Papers, Please a little bit. Sorry, John Luke, for not prepping you on that. But yeah, something that's not about actually fighting in the war, and it's also Eastern European, like a fake Eastern European country. Papers, Please. If you aren't familiar with it, you have to kind of look at people's documents and either let them across the border or deny them. And if you get, I almost forget how it works, but I just remember being like haunted by the sound effects, because like you can hear like, I don't know, it's like very simple and
yeah, you decide like who you let
simplistic.
through and stuff.
Yeah, but like the act of deciding who you let in.
Yeah, it can be really tough, because in the beginning it's just about making sure that like, okay, I need to have these pieces of information.
Yeah.
And they have these pieces of information, so they're good to go. But then people come up and admit to you that like, I don't have my documents, but I'm escaping an abusive husband.
Exactly.
I need to get across the border. Here's like $1,000. Please let me across. And you can do that, but you might get caught.
You don't want to, you're avoiding getting caught, and because you are also making a pittance to support your family, and you have to like pay your bills, and it gets really emotional when people are like, please let me in, and you have to like you can see here, you're kind of verifying that they are from where they say they are, and it's so simple, and it seems like a game about doing a menial task would be boring, but I couldn't stop playing it when it came out. It came out like what, 2012, 2013? Yeah,
something around then. Yeah, it's worth checking out. It's easy to play in kind of like bite-sized chunks too, but it's
kind of interesting to think that what seems to be the most tedious and boring job. You know, like I just think of like a guy at the airport, like just checking your stuff, your passport.
What's the game
This is
was
heavy.
last year where you're like a customer service rep? I get this call every day.
Yeah.
Less moral implications, but still kind of a similar thing. But yeah, so those are kind of a few of the games we wanted to talk about, whether they were just fun games or kind of took a cool look at war. Again, on Sunday we have something going up about how games portray war and how they might be able to do better based on some of these games.
Bushin?
Ryucat.
The opening Normandy Beach for Frontline Medal of Honor was one I wanted to say, just because like I think it was like the first time where like I had like my parents watch me play it, and they both were like, "Wow, video games are kind of cool," or like pretty intense.
What are you playing?
Yeah, well, that was the one thing, but like it was the first time where she was like, I remember my mom was like, "Wow, like that's pretty heavy." And I was like,
I think Allied Assault was the first Normandy Beach invasion in a game, and then Frontline came along, if I'm not mistaken. Allied Assault was on PC, Medal of Honor Frontline was
Normandy
PS2.
on the Atari 2600 was pretty.
Yeah.
I had the opposite thing where my dad was like, "Hey, check this game out," and we played it, and it was intense.
Yeah. But yeah, good call out, because that game we were talking, that kind of becomes like a James Bond movie halfway through. You're this undercover agent going into German U-boats and sneaking behind enemy lines and going to that dinner party where you have to be stealthy a little bit, but I guess the stealth's kind of rudimentary in hindsight.
Man, I forgot the entire game clearly.
Like
Game's
stealthy
fun.
about taking food from other people's plates.
Slipping eye drops into people you don't like, their wine. Not that I do that in real life. Anyway, yeah, let us know if we forgot to mention any. Like I said, with Call of Duty announcement supposedly coming soon. We'll know more about that from Sledgehammer Games. Battlefront II is focusing more on its campaign this time around, with a couple of writers who have kind of had experience in, like with Spec Ops: The Line. And yeah, we're excited for those. So and Dawn of War, I guess that's more fantasy war, but an RTS game that'll release next week. Our review will be up soonish. Tomorrow. If you're watching this live, it'll be tomorrow, April 20th.
20th.
Sorry, just kidding.
What does that mean?
420.
What did you do?
"What is that?"
Nothing. I didn't do anything. All right. Let us know in the comments. Thanks. Cool. That's a show. Yeah. Again, we have that. We have the Pixel Pals giveaway. Can you get those? Ryu and Chun-Li. Khaleesi plays in the Twitch chat. Just again, the lobby giveaway if you're in Twitch. She just put that link in there. So if you don't follow GameSpot on Twitter, do so please. And retweet that tweet later in the week. If you're in North America, we'll pick a random winner and you'll get these sent to your residence, cave, or hovel, whatever you happen to live in. Here we go. Or under. Here we go. Do over under this time.
Here you go.
Get your ugly coffee cup out of here.
"You're ugly."
Cool. Later on, 2 p.m. Pacific, Scott Butterworth, Joey Yee will be hosting a Call of Duty Zombies, the new DLC pack live stream with some of the developers from Infinity Ward who worked on Zombies.
Just one developer.
With one of the developers who worked on Zombies. Who's the fourth person playing?
There's only 3.
There's only 3. Okay. But yeah, so that'll be on later. Thursday, tomorrow, the Triforce. What's the theme this week? Or Zelda play? You don't know yet.
Super. Well,
no, they know.
I think
It's just
No,
mysterious.
no.
we could say it.
But do you know?
We are going to close the book on Triforce.
Really?
after the episode.
We just can't. We can't do anymore. I don't know. We're running out of ideas.
The audience has been great. Like it's
Yeah,
been fun to
it's been
do.
fun.
But like as we watch the rest of the internet kind of like pick this game apart and we watch our own sort of interests begin to fade, it's like, wow, what can we do that people haven't seen already?
Well, a lot of the ideas we thought we would have were like, just physics. Like the game is very plentiful and that type of stuff. But then you get into like, okay, well, the whole flying thing where you can take mine carts and fly. As you're doing it, it's super boring. You know what I mean? Like you think it's a cool thing to show off, but you can't do that for an hour and a half. So, if there's one thing that we all know Zelda Breath of the Wild is known for at the moment is speed running. So we're gonna take a stab at it. We're gonna try to start a game.
Pun intended.
And
Stab at some rocks that you climb onto subsequently.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if you saw any of the speed run. He's hitting, like the boulders on all the mountains and stuff like that.
Yes.
He's leaving a shrine, or does this a couple times, and does the whole stasis trick in order to
Right.
get to like the Temple of Time. Yeah, I just find it fascinating how people are like developing these methods. But yeah, I think we're gonna try to do it.
Yeah, so join us tomorrow for that. Should be
11 a.m.
fun,
Pacific.
11 a.m. And if you haven't watched all Triforce, you want to watch a good episode, watch the one from 2 weeks ago.
I
We
can't
did
see
it
shit.
blindfolded. I
We
can't
did
see
it
shit.
blindfolded, Yeah,
That was so good.
that was fun and exhausting. I think definitely what I'll do is at some point when we close the book, I'll combine them all and do a nice little highlight compilation of all the episodes we've done.
Cool. All right. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. We will be back next week, same time as always. I don't know. What are you up to the rest of the weekend, aside from Triforce?
Maybe some Nier Automata. Yeah. I can't talk. I'm also looking at the Retro Freak console, which some people might know about. It's a system that plays old NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Game Boy, and TurboGrafx games from all regions. It's pretty neat.
Should we get this since we can't get an NES Classic now?
Well, there's another system I just got in that is another NES made by a different company. So I don't know. We'll see then.
Cool.
Once I look at both of these systems.
Rob, what about you, aside from Triforce? Watching The Last Jedi trailer a lot more?
No, I can't watch that really anymore. I don't really know.
You don't have any plans?
I don't know. Put you on the spot. I might do I might do another feature on
Give us a
Zelda. Who
plan
knows?
now. Like, make something up.
I'll see if I can put my foot in my mouth.
That's your Friday.
But I've seen you do
That's what
that.
we pay him
I know
for.
you can do that.
Callie, what about you? And if I put you on the spot, please just tell me right now before we get
Playing more Mario Kart. I think we might be doing a tournament that I'm determined to win, so I'm going to practice. And that's probably what I'll do all weekend.
And that review will be up mañana on GameSpot.
Mañana.
Mañana.com.gamespot/twitchtv.spot. I'm jetting off to Portland in like an hour.
Get out of here.
No one cares, dude.
You're just mad because I can think of my plans. I could just make up putting my.
Hey, man.
I will also be trying to put my foot in my mouth on the plane. Maybe the
I would hate this next to you.
the air marshal's like, I don't even know if I'm supposed to like arrest him for this. What is he doing? I got an aisle seat, so it actually seems very possible. I'll try. Report back. If there's Wi-Fi on the plane, I'll be live tweeting, trying to shove my foot in my mouth. Tay, I'll end the show when I want to.
Yeah.
Watch me mute you. Yeah, you're muted. Bye. See? Bye.